I knew something was wrong the moment the laughter stopped being laughter. It had that brittle edge. The kind people use when they think you're too naive to catch the insult tucked beneath each syllable. I'd heard that tone before years ago, in a school hallway where kids pretended my mother's accent was some kind of joke. I thought I'd grown past caring. I was wrong. The first time my in-laws mocked my culture, it was over dinner. A harmless evening, supposedly. Candlelight, a polished oak table. My husband squeezing my hand under the surface as if reassurance alone could dilute ignorance. His mother smiled sweetly at me while saying my traditional earrings made me look ethnic. In a theatrical way, his father chuckled, asking if the dish I brought was safe for people used to real food. When I answered calmly, they shared a glance quick conspiratorial. That glance stung more than the words. I told myself to let it go. But the second time came fast. At a family gathering, one of their friends asked where I was from. Before I could answer, my mother-in-law cut in with a sugary voice. Oh, she's from one of those colorful places. Very spirited people. The way she said spirited made it sound like unhinged. I felt my cheeks burn, but I smiled. I always smiled. Peacekeeper, bridge builder, daughter of immigrants taught to swallow indignities so no one would call us difficult. But that evening, after everyone left, I replayed their words in the quiet of my kitchen. Their voices echoed in my head like faint taps against glass, persistent, irritating, impossible to ignore. My husband apologized again, but apologies don't erase patterns. They don't prevent new ones. Something inside me tightened, clicked into place like the first notch of a locked mechanism. I realized I'd been giving them the benefit of the doubt long after they'd forfeited it. My revenge didn't come from anger. It came from clarity. I started with observation, small, quiet, patient. I watched how they operated, the casual comments, the subtle social games, the way they hid their insecurities behind passive-aggressive smiles. I collected everything mentally, filing each instance away like evidence in a case I hadn't decided whether to prosecute. Then came the research. My in-laws ran a charity foundation. Highly respected, pristine public image. The kind of organization people praised for its community outreach. I'd donated time before, helped with paperwork, which gave me access to the back end. Not illegally, just unnoticed. And unnoticed people notice everything. I found financial inconsistencies first. Small, but telling. Bookkeeping discrepancies brushed off as clerical errors. But numbers don't lie unless someone forces them to. I dug deeper, old emails. Archived planning documents, budget approvals that didn't match receipts. A quiet pattern of misallocated funds emerged, nothing dramatic, but enough to raise eyebrows in the right places. Enough to make a public institution look sloppy at best, unethical at worst. Still, I wasn't interested in destroying them. That would be too easy. No. What I wanted was truth, laid bare under lights they could no longer control. The opportunity presented itself naturally. They invited me and my husband to their annual fundraiser, a night full of photographers, donors, and fragile egos dressed in expensive fabrics. I arrived early, carrying a calmness that felt razor-thin and deliberate. My mother-in-law looked me over with that same evaluating stare, as though weighing how exotic I'd appear in pictures. I let her think she was winning something. Before the event began, I approached the board chair privately, a woman known for her strict adherence to propriety. I greeted her warmly and handed her a sealed envelope containing the inconsistencies I'd found, organized, highlighted, sourced. Her brows drew together as she skimmed the first page. I didn't accuse anyone. I simply said, I thought you should know in case anyone's reputation here is at risk. The phrasing was intentional. Reputation was their religion. She thanked me quietly, and I slipped away into the thrumming crowd. The fundraiser began like any other, clinking glasses, performative gratitude, glossy speeches. My in-laws floated through the room with their usual curated poise. My husband stayed close to me, unaware but trusting. I watched the board chair move through the crowd with a tightened expression. She approached my in-laws, pulled them aside and spoke in low tones. Their faces shifted, first confusion, then offense, then something sharp and fearful. People noticed. People always do. The whispers spread faster than the music could drown them out. Something's wrong. Something's off. Are they being audited? Why were they pulled aside so abruptly? In a room built on image, even a flicker of doubt was a spark to dry leaves. My mother-in-law's eyes found mine across the room. For a moment, she looked small. I didn't smile, but I didn't look away either. Her husband murmured something to her, but she barely heard him. Her gaze remained fixed on me as if suddenly recognizing I was not the fragile ornament she'd assumed I was. Later, as guests drifted out with murmurs lingering behind them like smoke, she approached me. Her voice trembled not with anger, but with the weight of someone realizing the ground beneath them had shifted. Did you do something? I simply noticed things you didn't, I said. Or didn't want to. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. That was the moment she understood my silence had never been weakness. It had been patience. The board launched a formal review days later. Not a scandal, but a spotlight they could not control. Suddenly they weren't the ones whispering, they were the ones being whispered about. Their pristine foyer developed cracks visible even in casual conversation. And every time someone asked me about it, I gave the same gentle answer. I'm sure they had their reasons. Cultural misunderstandings happen. They never mocked my culture again. My husband asked how I stayed so calm. I told him the truth. That quiet revenge is never about rage. It's about balance being restored, about shadows finally settling where they belong. And sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it breathes, steady and soft, like a cold wind brushing through an open door. If you want to hear more stories carved from quiet shadows, stay close.